This live read is in honor of the awesomeness of Tim Curry, the only man out there that played a character that actually scared little 5-year-old me. Yeah, I go. Apparently, little baby me could sit through Godzilla, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, a whole slew of horror movies. Could watch all these movies that have been known to scare lesser, that's also correct, men like nobody's business. But you put me in front of Tim Curry in the legend outfit, and apparently I'm hiding under my covers. You tell me what's up with that. White noise cut through Akechi's consciousness as he stirred the next morning. Rain calmly drizzled down, heavier than a sprinkle, but lighter than downpour. His chest deflated with a gentle sigh as he sat up, rubbing his eyes. Yesterday was a familiar shopping district, tinted yellow beneath a stark black-red sky. Shadowy glows with hollow-eyed masks rushing in, his own mirror image diving down, clad in pure white, his red cape flapping as he hit the ground and unleashed an eruption of magic upon the swarm of shadows. Akechi squeezed his eyes shut, fingers curling around his blanket and creasing it tight enough that it would doubtlessly wrinkle. There was so much to unpack, so many feelings to untangle. If he hoped to move forward, he could not run away. He was not a coward. But sitting and stewing would accomplish nothing. However tempting it was to wriggle beneath the covers, he forced himself to stand and leave the quiet comfort of his room. A shower, perhaps, would help clear his head, provided you didn't intercept him on the way. What was Akechi supposed to say to him, anyway? He was so kind, despite his blatant suspicions. So was it better to be honest? Best to admit his shadow's existence and get the others up to speed? A part of Akechi learned to just rip off the proverbial bandage. But then what? What would it say if he couldn't handle the most docile shower imaginable? The shower beat down upon him. Tap, tap, tap. He let the water trickle over him, pounding the wall with one fist before aggressively lathering his scalp with shampoo. Why couldn't he just be normal about this? Wow. Over 12 years and almost 100 thick fixed red, and this is our first emo shower scene. I feel loved. When he finally stepped out of the shower, he looked in the mirror, taking great pains to style his hair appropriately. Yet as he fussed his brush to get his wet mane in order, maroon eyes became gold. A scowl shifted to a speaking smile. I guess he staggered back, dropping the brush on the floor. As soon as he blinked, his reflection returned to its normal state. Gawking back at him, still damp and utterly ridiculous. After shaking off his stupor, Akechi stormed out of the bathroom with his school uniform on. It was the last day before Golden Week. Best to make it count. To his surprise, however, he found Dojima at the kitchen table alongside Nanako, while Yu scooped up some scrambled eggs with a metal spatula and plopped them down on a fresh plate with a side of toast. Yu returned from his handiwork and smiled. Hey, you're just in time. He carried the plate over to an empty chair, then returned to the kitchen to dish up his own helping. Ah, thank you. Akechi spoke softly, climbing up onto the chair. It was just like you to serve himself, always putting others first. At first, Akechi found him patronizing, like he was trying too hard to gain favor. Ironic, given his own attempts to appease his family. He remained quiet as he ate, casting occasional glances at you, but never finding the right words to say. It wasn't until Dojima rose from his seat, still nibbling on his toast, that something slipped into the tip of Akechi's tongue out into the open. You know, I heard the strangest accusation yesterday. Dojima stopped, swallowing his bite, peered over his shoulder. Oh, yeah? Well, perhaps it was worth voicing anyway. Some frenzied teenager was adamant that Kenshiro Moroko is the killer. You snored, arching his eyebrow. You mean King Moron? Right. That's your homeroom teacher. Dojima sighed loudly before setting his sights back on Akechi. Does he have any proof? None whatsoever. Akechi pressed his palms together, cracking a transparently fake smile. None whatsoever. Akechi pressed his palms together, cracking a transparently fake smile. The smile died in his thick as hour in order to favor a flat stare. It seemed like he was projecting a personal grudge on the man and wanted someone to blame. The guy's a misogynist, but I don't know if I call him a killer, Hughes said. Nautico looked up at him, clearly puzzled. What's a misogynist? So
They're men who hate women, Tsushima said. Not the kind of people you should be associating with.
oh, that's no good. Nautico dropped over the table. How come your teacher's so mean? Yuri stopped ruffling her hair. Because he doesn't have a perfect princess in his life. Particularly, Nautico's bubbly giggles graced Akechi's ears. He rolled his eyes at you, propping his cheek up with his right hand while he claimed another bite of egg. Dojima, meanwhile, just chuckled and turned toward the door.
Well, I'm off. We'll talk about the trip more when I get back.
Nautico cheered in a sing-song voice. Yep. He flashed her a grin and a thumbs up for good measure. Already got ideas for our box lenses. You always spoil us with bentos. Kenzie couldn't help but chuckle at the thought of him aiming higher, and yet tomorrow's better be especially fantastic. Then, of course, you being you, he bowed and used that hammy tone of voice he normally would have traded to Kenzie, the one to slam his face into the table. Of course, Akechi senpai. For you, I will prepare a feast fit for royalty. He refrained, partially because he did not wish to go to school with a self-inflicted headache, and partially for Naniko's benefit. Instead, he simply sharpened his gaze and stared straight into Yu's soul. Good. Nanako-chan deserves the world. Naniko's cheeks puffed a pretty pink, and she huffed, Kissing-kun, you're special too. Not as special as you, he winked. At least with her, moments of silly affection weren't too bad. Before long, they ventured out into the rainy morning with their umbrellas in tow. As to be expected, heavy, frantic footsteps closed in, accompanied by a case of glances.
Hey, wait up!
Kanzi's voice slowed Akechi's movements, and he turned to greet his friend as he coasted to a more relaxed walking speed.
Hey, you doing any better?
A little. Akechi glanced at you for a moment, but only for a moment. Grateful for the coming holidays, at least. It'll be a good chance to clear my head in light of yesterday's revelations. What? About the retro seasons of Featherman and their weird American version? Oh, Akechi could just hear the laughter in Yu's voice, and made him bite back a growl. What could have been an embarrassing turn of conversation was salvaged when Kanzi's eyes blinked wide open, and he said,
Shit, that's for real?
which in turn reminded Akechi he was still a fan at heart. Good. And all Akechi had to do was seize the control of the conversation. Very real. You could probably find bootleg clips on the internet. I show you, but I don't have the means. Nanako cocked her head a little to the left, frowning. How come it's different in America? I've always been curious about that. In over here in the States, we have diehard fans of Japanese anime who complain that subs are better and that you can only enjoy something in its normal version. I'm a mix, but I wonder, in Japan, is there a American file who sees a dub of an American cartoon, like let's say Avatar, and complains that Shimaku ban no kata ga fukikake ban yuri yayu. Subtitles version is better than the dub. Just to take any opportunity to speak Japanese, I can. Differing cultural sensitivities, I imagine. They want to make it digestible for overseas markets, so they edit and rework things to feel less Japanese. Evidently, it works, as Falcon Force became a splash in the 90s, even receiving its own Japanese dub.
Damn!
Kazi scratched his head, while his face crumpled up.
How'd you even pick up on that stuff?
I did a school report on it once. Spent several countless hours on the library computers to pull it off. I even ran my own fan subgroup. He smirked, pleased at the chance to revel in his knowledge and not talk about yesterday's encounter with Nanako so close. Then you just had to butt in. He was about to lecture about me until he fell asleep. Had a good talk, though. Something must have dawned on Kanzi at the moment, as his brows knit together, and his head chipped down in a blatant show of concentration.
So, you think you're ready for?
Akechi cut him off. Not yet. Not here, Kanzi-san. It's... He slowly turned his head towards Nanako. A surprise, remember?
Oh, right. My bad.
Nanako's eyes drifted between the two of them as he mirrored Akechi's habit of stroking his chin. Yu crossed beside her. His voice was dubious. Looks like we got another mystery on our hands. A mystery for another time, Akechi said, eyes narrowed. After all, Nanako-chan mustn't be late for school. Indeed, they reached the point in the road where their paths diverged. Nanako scuffed her shoe against the road, but just as quickly as her posture started wilting, she straightened back up and held her head high. But your mother's going!
Oh, yeah. You got a big trip planned, don't you?
Kanji asked, and Nanako beamed, nodding.
Sweet. Well, make sure you got a good one, all right? Me and Mom got our own plans anyway.
After some time, as was the norm by now, the three parted ways. Akechi coasted through his school day, from the talk of subatomic particles in science class to the discussion of homophones in English. Several classmates grumbled and griped about how difficult it was to deal with words that sounded the same. Yeah, but one of these days, you're going to mistake a lavatory for a lavatory, and you're going to feel embarrassed. But carried starkly different meanings. However tedious it all was, Akechi carried himself throughout the day with his usual finesse and flourished until he stepped into the rainy air with his umbrella in hand and soon reunited with Kanji. After writing about the right way to turn right at the intersection. Why did they try to get you to teach math again? I don't know. Everybody could see that English is my forte. They strolled side by side down the puddle-dotted road. As they wandered, a faint frown crossed Kanji's lips.
I gotta help Mom out to show today. You good flying solo?
Of course, Kanji-san. I already promised Marie-san to procure a chessboard, and I intend to keep my word.
Oh, yeah, the gal chick with the hat. I remember her.
But your last meeting was rather brief. Kanji had places to go, but on the other hand, it wouldn't hurt to give a more proper introduction. I don't suppose you have a little time to spare. I think Marie-san would appreciate having another friendly face you could trust. The irony wasn't lost on Akechi, as he was accessing Marie broaden her social network, while hesitating with regards to his own. The thought provoked a small sigh. Perhaps it wasn't lost on Kanji either, as he sheepishly rubbed his neck and said,
I mean, only if it isn't too much trouble.
She needs to get out more anyway. A little dry humor, punctuated with a smirk, took the edge off of Akechi's own unease. When they reached the shopping district, a curious light greeted them. Marie, arms wrapped tight around her torso, shivered beneath the yawning of the Yaminaido bookstore. For some strange reason, though, she glared daggers at the gas station attendant. What? Kazi gaped at a silent stare down.
The hell's their problem?
Akechi, meanwhile, saw a closer look. Thus he strode directly to the proverbial fray. At that exact instant, the attendant's gaze snatched from Marie directly to Akechi, and he lazily waved. Hey, kid. How's your sleuthing going? Marie's face puckered into an unholy cross between a pout and a glare. Hellboy obviously came here to see me. Her little huff, accompanied with her crossed arms, was oddly adorable. For now, Akechi slid between the two of them, with Kanzi awkwardly shuffling close behind. He looked between the two and rubbed the back of his head. The attendant slapped a hand on his hip and tipped his chin up. Come on, lady. It's an honest question. I tell you, some people. Lovely. It was like Akechi had been dragged to the platonic equivalent of a love triangle. Only instead of giggling schoolgirls, it was two strangely supernatural beings who, for some reason or another, clearly couldn't stand each other. Sinking his head, Akechi blew a heavy sigh. I did come to see Marie-san, actually, but my escapades were enlightening thus far. I have reached the barrier of the TV screen. The rest is a work in progress. Yeah, I figured as much. You got some issues to work out, huh? But it sounds like you made it out of there without too much trouble. Akechi's grip on the umbrella tightened. Suddenly, a puddle across the street looked so interesting. My shadow is docile. He let me leave. But leaving wasn't your first idea, was it? You want the full course meal, persona and all. A further squeeze on his shoulder pulled Akechi's attention up to Kanji, who scowled at the attendant and spoke with a surprisingly cool tone.
Hey, You've been giving out the powers this whole time, right?
Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. The attendant shrugged. I'm not the kind of person to dictate people's choices. Power doesn't determine morality. It's what you do with the power that shows your true character. Marie's face burned red. Her lips curled back, teeth bared like a dog. Her back arched, and her fingers curled tightly around the strap of her shoulder bag. This was not the usual grumpiness that Ketchy expected, but something more visceral. You make things dangerous. People are going to keep getting hurt. He couldn't disagree. Grateful as he was to attain the power at all, his eyes flared to the attendant, watching him very, very closely. His nonchalance never wavered. He even snickered and said, The will of humanity is interesting. Do you really think so little of your friend here? Or no girlfriends? Hey, only I can call him!
How about you shut up?
Kazi snapped, thrusting a finger towards the attendant.
You're stressing her out, man.
Something about the look in his eyes suggested he wanted to say more, but instead, he glanced at Akechi as if referring to him. So, taking the lead, Akechi said, I'd like you to refrain from heckling Marie-san. I appreciate what you did for me, but she is my hesitated, friendly acquaintance, and I promised her a game of chess. The attendant whistled, tucking his hands into his pockets. A game in the middle of a game. I can respect that. Sharpen the mind so you can track down your perp. Kanzi's lips curled into a snarl.
Would be a hell of a lot easier if you just told us.
The attendant remained as casual as ever, shoulders bobbing in another shrug. I meet a lot of people, and I'm an impartial party. I want to see what you can figure out and whose wishes will prevail. Will it be our mystery killer and their endless hunger for thrills, or will the desire for truth and hope for the future win out? Impartial party, during a murder case that was only made possible by his abilities. Looking at it from the mindset of human morality, there was no cheerful read on the attendant's intentions. But the attendant wasn't human, no matter how well he wore the mask, and considering the way that he treated Akechi before. I'm convinced he's a trickster deity at this point. Akechi muttered to Kanji, but I unlocked my ability, so I can't say I hate him. Marie, quiet until now, abruptly grunted, grabbed her temple and winced. Her legs wobbled, hardly a good sign, and her sudden reaction drew Akechi closer. He said in his umbrella and said, Marie-san, I could take you to buy that chessboard. Perhaps we could spend a little time at my house after, so you get warmed up for good measure. Yeah, that sounds good. Kinda lost the umbrella no girlfriend's got me, so. Akechi on another day might have questioned how one loses an umbrella, but not today. She wasn't feeling well, so instead, he gently nudged down the road and away from the attendant. Kanzi kept scowling at the attendant, however, even as he maintained a smile and composure without batting an eye. Drop by any time, Goro Akechi. I would love to hear your latest findings. Accidentally, Akechi would have walked away without a word, from Marie's sake if no one else's, but the attendant had been so helpful in the past, it would give Akechi an opportunity to further study him. And who do I ask to share those findings with? After tipping his hat, the attendant took a bow. Just call me Izuya Sagiri. Sagiri? Marie whimpered, seizing her head again. Before anyone could ponder her reaction, nor the deeper significance of the attendant's name, he vanished without a trace. The only thing that followed was the faint whisper of death, rank 2.
The hell?
Kazi shrieked, gawking at the empty space where the attendant once stood. Ketsi sighed, holding Marie's shoulder to keep her balanced. Wouldn't be the first time he's done that. Kanzi lingered a few moments before joining Akechi on Marie's opposite side. Once he caught up, he removed his uniform jacket and draped it over her.
Here, this'll keep you warm until you get to the Ketsy's place.
Marie stared at the Alfred coat, then at him. Why? Don't you need it?
Kazi shook his head. Nah, I'll just jog back to keep the shop to keep warm. Plus, us guys tend to run hot anyway.
You run hot. How does that even work? Oh, Marie. Ketsi replied rather lightly. Our temperatures tend to be higher for biological reasons. Oh, and girls aren't hot? Just like that, Katsi's face burned bright red, and he stumbled back.
I mean...
Some people think they are. Mackenzie waved his hand, dismissing the subject before it got out of hand. Personally, I try not to think about such things. Well, I sure don't feel hot. Though Marie pouted again, she at least slipped her arms into the sleeves of Kanzi's jacket and pulled it on nice and tight. Sort of. The height difference left the sleeves a bit baggy. It's so wet out here. Let's just go to that Junez place and pick up the game so we can warm up already. While Ketsi led Marie up the street, he stopped a few feet, sets a frown. Are you sure this is all right? Kanzi just laughed, cracking a huge grin.
Hey, it's Golden Week. Ain't gotta worry about school for a few more days.
True, and thought of it like that. I can leave it at Hellboy's house if you want, Marie said, head slightly ducked. Well, make things harder than they have to be.
As long as you can get back safely.
Kanzi lowered his gaze, paused her hunts.
Doesn't that feel right, but making a girl walk home in the rain?
I'll make sure she picks up another umbrella while we're at Juna's, Kanzi-san. Marie smacked her head on her face. Yeah, this time I won't lose it,
Hey, it's cool.
Kanzi said.
I forget mine sometimes.
I've forgotten more than umbrellas, though. Marie watched her own reflection stare back at her from the surface of the small puddle. The only memories I have are the ones I've made since I've met this little trip. On the other hand, on one hand, a little smirk got some relief. On the other hand, I guess he tried not hard not to pout. I think I prefer Hellboy over Torp.
Damn.
As he looked Marie over, one hand on his hip.
So you don't got anything to clue you in?
Yes. Marie dug an old bamboo comb from her shoulder. It was so dark, leathered, and frankly looked like it belonged in a museum display. It's the one thing I had with me. I don't know what it means. It looks like an antique. Akechi noted as he leaned in for a closer look. Handcrafted, no doubt, with meticulous care.
See if my mom knows anything.
Speaking of which, they reached the Tatsumi textile shop. Tatsu pressed his hand to the door and said,
Actually, let's make a deal. You borrow my jacket, I borrow your comb. Well, at least until I can get mom's opinion.
Marie festively hesitated, fingers curling around the comb. She felt it close, but okay. She placed it in Kazi's palm. But you better take good care of it.
Hey, of course I will. I ain't the kind of punk who screws around with other people's stuff.
You can trust Kazi-san. Kazi added, he's the one who saved me. From hell? Yeah, that's the gist of it. They parted ways soon after, and in time the two of them reached Junes. On their way to the toys and games, Kazi stopped to glance at the distant wall of flat-screen TVs. Hey, Marie-san, when will I get to see your master? Oh! Marie stopped, fiddling with the bag. Soon, I think. He wants you to, I don't know, lower your walls. He told no girlfriends that. So Narukami does know. I guess he suspected as much, but this just cemented in his mind. And what, pray tell, did your master say? He's worrying is all. Marie stepped forward, joining Akechi and staring at the TV screens. You still have to face a part of yourself, right? Akechi wanted to deny it. The face, safe face, but yes. He's waiting for me to make a decision. But there really is no choice. But you made it sound like he's docile? Docile. It means he's not aggressive. He's. Akechi squeezed his hands together, looking away. I'm sure he'd be happy if I was more like him. But he is you, isn't he? So the parts that you think they're like right here. She tapped Akechi's chest. A bit too much contact, but he tolerated for now. I can't say he's not me. That's the last thing he wants to say to their shadow. But if I accept that side of me, it means accepting certain feelings that risk pain in the end. He tried to turn away, waving for Marie to follow. Well, we're getting off track, Marie sighed. I came here to get you an umbrella and a chessboard, not to fret over sentimental things. Right. The disappointment in her voice was palatable. Funny how a single word could twist the proverbial knife. In the end, they left Tunes with a fresh umbrella for Marie and a chessboard tucked safely into her shoulder bag. The rain, at least, led up to a slight sprinkling, which meant the odds for the midnight channel were rather low. Of course, when they entered the house, Nanako stepped over to them with wide-eyed wonder. This is Marisa. Jesse stepped aside, mostly for her to come in. We're going to play chess up on the hill, but since it's raining, I figure I'd invite her in here instead. That is, if you're all right with that. Sure! Nanako practically bounced as he spoke, grinning from ear to ear. Nice to meet you, Marisa. Same, I guess. She very awkwardly shuffled inside, sliding off her shoes when she saw Ketty do the same. He led her past the kitchen and into the living room, taking a spot at the table. For a few seconds, she stared at him before she ultimately claimed a pillow directly across from him. I guess he patted the tabletop. So shall we get started? Oh, honey, it's the snakes! Aniko scared into the kitchen and rummaged around. When Marie brought out the chessboard, Akechi made quick work of setting the pieces out. He selected black and regaled her as he prepared his side of the board. So first and foremost, just as a game of tactics, you each choose one side, black or white. And since white goes first, he puts the white queen down on her side. That gives you a slight edge. Marie picked up a white pawn, squinting at, "You're all different." Correct. Each piece on a chessboard has a specific purpose. The pawns, for instance, he set one down, can only move forward one space, barring your first turn to where they can move twice if you desire. All the pawns begin at front lines, lying perfectly like so. With all the pawns in place, he fetched the castle. The castles, or rooks, sit on the far left and right behind the pawns. They can only move in straight lines. The knight, on the other hand, he scoots one up, moves in a simple L formation, like this. He demonstrated this movement before settling pieces in place. They sit beside the castles. Then come the bishops, who move diagonally. While Ketsi carried on his explanation, Nanako tried over with a bag of countryman cookies and senbei crackers. After setting them down to the side of the chessboard, she plopped down on the side of the table, perpendicular to the duo. Marie picked up a few more white pieces, slowly placing them down to match Ketsy's own setup. She stopped for a moment, though, left the white queen he had already set down. "What about these big pieces?" Nanako said. "She's the best piece because she can move any way she wants." "So strong. I like that." Marie reached for another large piece, this time the king. "What about this one?" King, the most crucial piece in the game. To emphasize this, Kenzie placed the black king beside its queen with a deliberate thunk. In short, the king is the goal. In chess, progress across the board with the objective to claim the opponent's king. As you move your pieces across, you can seize the enemy's ranks. A pawn, for instance, takes pieces one space diagonal to them. The arrows lay waste to those in their path, but the king almost always remained at the far back, shielded by at least a few of his subjects. Thus, you must approach your enemy's movements with a clear objective, and decide carefully which pieces to move and when. "So it's a battle." Akechi grinned. "It's like a war, and only the sharpest minds may prevail." Nanako covered her mouth with both hands, but oh, the giggles burst forth like water from a busted dam. "Now fighting." "Oh, we aren't fighting, really," Nanako said. Then Marie brandished her queen pieces with a little dagger. "Oh, I'm ready, Hellboy. I'm going to take your king in, If you manage, that's called checkmate. And you declare check when you're one move away from the opposing king. Then I'm going to checkmate you, then you'll lose, I guess?" She set the queen down, crossing her arms with a little pout. "I don't know. Never played anything before." Her admission earned a tiny gasp from Nanako. Marie looked down at the table, grimacing. "No, at least I don't think I have." Just like that, Nanako hopped to her feet, putting her little hands on her hips. Goodness, why was he so precious? I guess he propped his cheek up with his right hand, snickering under his breath. "Oh, planning to steal my chess partner already?" "No, but that's fun." Nanako could probably relate, couldn't she? Her busy father, the loneliness in the house until Akechi and you walked into her life, wasn't wholly dissimilar on an extremely surface level. Well, that's why I'm trying to introduce her to games like chess. I'll give her something to enjoy with her friends at home. He hesitated to call them family, given what little he knew. "Yes, King." Nanako sat back down, crossing her legs. "I know lots of things." "Oh, I guess." Ree's face flushed, doubtfully a little embarrassed. "First, I'm going to wipe the smirk off of Hellboy's face." Kenzie leaned over the table, pressing his palms down and cocking one eyebrow. "I'd love to see you try." In the end, after some smaller explanations of maneuvers like pawn promotion and castling, the game proceeded. However, Akechi was so experienced by comparison. In the end, he was the one to declare, "Checkmate." His queen slid diagonally into place, bumping out the king. As he claimed a winning piece, Marie grumbled and growled. How did you win so fast? I've had practice, Marie-san. You'll get there in time. I want to play you again. She pointed at Akechi. This time I'll... Nanako said. Wise words, said Akechi. I suppose we can manage one more round before we part ways for the evening. Ultimately, Akechi still won, but at least this round lasted more than a few turns. To Marie's credit, she managed to stall for about 20 minutes just by awkwardly moving her pieces around the board, where Akechi finally claimed the king once more. See, you're already improving. Akechi's voice was warm, cheery, and bright. Now consider how you'll fare once you've had time to play with your companions in the room. I'm gonna beat the nose. Then I'm coming for you. Marie looked dead serious, to an almost comical degree, with her narrowed eyes and pursed lips, and sheer conviction in her voice. She probably didn't mean to be funny, and Akechi probably shouldn't have laughed, but, ha, oh dear, a little one slipped out. Wouldn't it be better to start with Margaret instead of your master? No holding back. If I could beat him, I could beat you too. Nanako asked. Sure. She glanced at Akechi, who promptly stepped aside and ushered Nanako over to his side of the table. The two girls played a bit longer, and to Akechi's pleasant surprise, Marie claimed victory in her second match. Despite the loss, Nanako applauded her fellow player. I knew you could do it. Yeah? A tiny quick smile crept across Marie's lips. Yeah! See, Hellboy, I'm catching up. Not bad for a first day, Akechi admitted as he helped her pat the pieces away. Nanako-chan seems absolutely enchanted. Perhaps you'll have to visit again in the future, hmm? Nanako looked up at Marie-san with big pleading eyes, like a little kitten eager for affection. As Marie beheld this, she tucked a strand of her hair behind her hair out timidly. I mean, I guess if it's not too busy. We do have Golden Week plans, Akechi said, and I have my exam. But I'm sure we could figure something out when the time comes. With the pieces all cleaned up, he slid the lid onto the box and returned it to Marie. Once he slipped the chessboard into her bag, Akechi led her to the door. Well, I better get back. Thanks for the game? Hesitation in her voice made it clear that this still wasn't her comfort zone. But Nanako at least didn't seem too phased. She waved excitedly and said, As Marie took her leave, Akechi received another confirmation. Aeon, rank 5. Soon after, Akechi and Nanako settled by the table, buzzing on snacks and doing their homework, while the silly cartoons playing in the background. Flipping through her reading material, Nanako hunched over the tabletop, face scrunching up in deep concentration. Akechi snored. Eager to finish before the holiday, I presume? Mm, I need to stop that island, so yeah, more time to have fun! You really are responsible, Nanako-chan. Good job. In a roundabout way, it reminded him of himself when he was younger, working as hard as possible so his mother wouldn't have to worry so much. Picking up groceries, cleaning around their apartment, just doing everything he could to be less of a burden. Funny how that turned out. Nanako, a very inquisitive one, must have noticed something amiss as he looked up from her book and said, What's wrong? Just reminiscing, I suppose. Because he held his cheek up with his right hand, trying to pace with a muted sigh. I had to do a lot at your age. My mother was just as busy as your father, if not more so. She couldn't always provide for me. Mm. She felt quiet for a few seconds. What about your dad? She meant well, but Akechi's whole body locked up. He glared down at the table. His throat constricted so tightly he could barely breathe. But no, it wasn't her fault. It was an innocent question. He left when my mother was pregnant with me. That was so harsh, though. Was it better to soften it or be honest? How did one handle telling such a sweet little girl about the world's evils? Was it even fair? Regardless, Nanako moved closer, patting his shoulder. I'm sorry. Don't be. It isn't your fault, Nanako-chan. He's the one who abandoned us. He's the one who... Akechi had to stop himself before this got out of hand. He needed to breathe in, then out. It was okay. He was safe. Nanako was here. He was fine. Nanako pulled her hand back, looking down. Akechi's eyes locked on hers, gaze intense. Nanako-chan, I may not know your father very well, but I know he would never abandon you. He wasn't sure what he was doing, but before long he moved in, pulling her into a clumsy, one-armed and sideways hug. And neither will I. She leaned into the contact, looking a bit tired than Akechi would have liked, but he said it nonetheless. It was Nanako. Perhaps that was okay. And I won't leave you either. Funny how easy that was to believe now, when past experiences had repeatedly taught him to never get too close, never get too attached. People came and left. Perhaps some people stayed, too. Perhaps it was foolish of him to make such a bold promise, but here, now, it felt right. He sighed, looking down at the little girl still clinging tight. This was okay. It was warm. She really did love him, didn't she? I'll try not to drive you too crazy. His words wobbled, voice strained, especially considering we do have our outing tomorrow. The door slid open, and Nanako promptly pulled back. Yep, just had to grab a few things for the bentos. He moseyed into the kitchen. He hastily plopped his grocery bag on the counter. You two getting hungry? Ketchy cast a glance at his remaining snacks. Some proper nourishment would be nice. Mostly just subsisted on empty calories. Gotcha. Well, I'll get something whipped up in a sec. A startlingly peaceful dinner followed, and no small thanks to Nanako's warm, bubbly excitement, though the hot meal certainly didn't hurt. Tonight's offering was Nasu Dengaku, or fried eggplant in a miso glaze, accompanied with small cucumber salad and homemade beef yakisoba, because evidently Narakami wanted something extravagant to welcome in the holidays. A rich blend of flavors, coupled with Akechi's near monstrous appetite, drove him to devour his meal much faster than anticipated, and by the time he finished, he slumped over the table, practically stuffed. You chuckled as he turned to the evening news. Dang it, Ketsu-kun, you really are starting puberty. Ugh, puberty. It's possible, I suppose. Puberty meant bodily changes. It meant hormones, a lack of control in certain areas that he hardly looked forward to. Thankfully, a news report cut through his thoughts. An Inaba credit union ATM to the north of town was destroyed today by an earth mover, and all the cash inside was stolen. Wonderful. An attack on the bank as well as the ongoing murder case. Akechi watched Nanako, quiet but with eyes glued to the screen. The vehicle, which was abandoned at the scene, has been reported stolen by the local contractor. Says the culprit was able to act quickly before the security guards arrived on the scene. Police have. Then the words he even considered slipped out of her. The sudden ringing from the phone sent Nanako back on her feet. She barreled to the phone, picking up immediately. That wasn't a good sign. Akechi and Yu shared a long, worried glance. He must have been on a similar wavelength. Nanako paused, letting her fingers tighten around the phone, coupled with her breath hissing. Hardly eased Akechi's mind. Yeah, yeah. Her voice grew strained. The air, rather suddenly, felt crushingly heavy. Yeah, all right. She walked over to you, passing him the phone with a trembling hand. You said to give me the phone. Can't take those days off. Her voice wavered, tears welled in her eyes. Then, before you or Akechi could say anything, Nanako rushed upstairs. Before he knew it, Kenzie raced after her. It wasn't fair. They all planned for this. Nanako was so excited. This was supposed to be their first outing as a family, and now Kenzie stood outside the door, listening to the muffled sniffles and snobs. His hand hovered over the doorknob, while his mind was whisking back in time. And by the way, I'm tearing up too for little Nanako. It happened too often, to the point where Goro had lost count. Another night without his mother, forced to fend for himself. Go-chan, she say, Mama has to work late tonight, but the nice lady at the bathhouse will take care of you, okay? Another lonely night, forced to wander the streets of Shinjuku, ducking into alleys to avoid being spotted by cops, keeping out of the way, out of sight, until the wharf of the bathhouse lobby beckoned him, and the wide, calloused hand of that woman patted his head. Large, but with such a kind smile and gentle eyes, she escorted him to the baths, and when necessary, let him sit beside her at the front desk to read what spots operating she kept for him and him alone. Wasn't much, but he still had someone. Someone to turn to when his own mother couldn't be there. And when, at his young, naive, clueless age, he couldn't understand why she took those jobs or why she couldn't just leave. But Nanako. He gets closer, heart throbbing with each miserable beat. He was never the best at comforting others. He tried it with Nanako before, but this was different. This time, she was crying, heartbroken. Fatima made a promise. They had all gotten their hopes up. It wasn't his fault, Kenzie knew. His work was demanding. An ATM was just ransacked. The murder case remained unsolved. But Akechi was 12. He had the benefit of hindsight. Nanako was half his age, all alone behind that door. That's what Akechi had promised he wouldn't leave her. And so, tentatively, he knocked. Nanako-chan? It's me. Can I come in? At first, he didn't respond. Akechi refused to give up. I don't want you to feel alone. I'm here for you if you need me, all right? Several agonizing seconds in the silence dragged before she sniffled. Then a tiny voice whimpered. A huge sigh of relief escaped him. Ketty steadily cracked the door open so as not to startle her. The lights were out, but even through the dark, he took in some key features, including shelves lined with colorful books and cute plus animals. The knitted cat that Kanchi made her stood out despite its dark coloration. Meanwhile, a little desk sat in the corner as he already unfurled her futon, where she knelt and rubbed her eyes. A Akechi flew at her, wrapping both arms around the poor girl and pulling her close. As he held her, Sybil's broke into sobs. She buried her face in his chest. He tightened his hold and then, though hesitant, pressed a hand for the top of her head. There, it's all right. I'm here, Nanako-chan. Goro's here. His given name. At this point, it was okay if she used it. She'd been there all along, after all, and here, now, she needed this. The affirmation, the closeness, the love. Did he love her too? He took in a shaky breath, resting his chin on her head and giving her back a gentle rub. Sometimes his mother would hold him like this, when she wasn't too exhausted from her work, or when she was sober enough to notice his tears and bruises after a difficult day at school. She tried. She tried so hard, juggling work and her son and the social stigmas that came from both sex work and her illegitimate child. But she couldn't always be there. Plans to travel, see the new Featherman film, to go have a picnic and forget the grime of the city. So often they crumbled, dancing as hopes just as swiftly as they formed, and didn't get any easier after she abandoned prostitution. Daddy promised. Nanako whimpered between sobs, and Akechi nodded, lightly stroking her hair. Shh, I know. I'm sure that if he could, he'd keep that promise, but we could still have fun together. It might not be the same, but our Kwame brought some nice ingredients for Brent's house. I don't have any other plans. We can still try to be a family if you want. It's a bold thing for him to say, and offer to act like a family with you nor Kami. But this wasn't about him. It was about Nanako. This poor little girl, whose family until recently was just so small. It was too close to home. Her father did his best, of course. Dojima, despite everything, was still a kind man at heart. But he couldn't be here now. Some nights, nobody could be there for little Goro. The bathhouse was too busy to get the same personal attention from Lala-chan. His mother was too tired to tuck him in after a long, grueling night with clients who saw her as nothing but a means to revel in their own twisted pleasure. There were times he found her passed out on the couch, and he'd be the one to tuck her in instead. He seen Nanako do the same with her father, but on a night like this, he seldom had someone to hold him while he cried. Oftentimes, he refused to let himself cry at all, because then he knew he would just make Mama sad. Nanako sniffled some more, then looked up at him with red, puffy eyes. Without thinking, he reached down and gently wiped the tears away. She managed, after a tiny hiccup. If it makes you happy, I could try. He was never so lucky to have an older child support him, let alone two. At least, not until recently. And with Kanji and debatably you and the others. But I guess he was twice her age. And he had seen and endured so much that his own heart was at war with itself. Nanako was little. There was still hope for her. She didn't have to suffer through those crushing loneliness, the sense of worthlessness, and that had consumed so much of Akechi's life. She buried her face in his shirt again, but this time she didn't sob. She still trembled. She still sniffled. But it was progress all the same. Yes, Anako, we're family, aren't we? Still so weird to say, but she squeezed tighter. That was a good sign, wasn't it? Okay. She pulled back a little. The tiniest trace of a smile took form. Does that mean you're my brother? If you want me to be. It was a big commitment, one that left us slightly dizzy. He was too used to being shuffled around, too used to passing from house to house, but, strangely, despite that gnawing fear, it didn't feel so inevitable now. At least for her, he could accept his sentimental ideal. Perhaps, perhaps it could help them both. He wasn't sure yet. It was all pure impulse, born of a desire to keep that little girl's world from collapsing around her. She said to herself, as this was a deep, profound realization. But oh, the way her smile grew. Bless her heart. This girl is so strong. To make it through such a heartbreaking ordeal and still shine so bright. I'm going to be pissed off in several chapters from now. You people who played this game know why. Damn it! I guess I can feel his eyes sting. Feel the moisture on his cheeks. Hopefully, he wouldn't notice. Yes, Nanako-chan. Try my best not to disappoint you, all right? I'm not the best with being close to others, but I will try. That's all you have to do, she said, and leaned in for another hug. I already saw you that way. I just didn't know if you did too. I wasn't sure either, to be honest. Oh, what the hell? He only let her sob into his shirt. She deserved another hug. I'm not sure I'm ready to call Dojima-san my father. I'm a mess, and I need time. Is that all right? Say your dad was really bad. I hate him for what he did to my mother and me. But I don't hate Dojima-san. Narukami-san. What was the right way to put this? It's complicated, but I will have a word with him about tomorrow. I think we can at least set aside our differences for you. I do a lot of bad things. Thank you for Dad. It might be. Pain has a way of lingering. It could change you, Nanako-chan. I'll do everything I can to spare you from such feelings. Okay, but you have to take care of yourself too. She pouted a little, but in a sort of playful way. It was hard to fully tell. It's okay, you can't always be here, because you're still trying your best. Kenzie glanced at the clock on the wall, modeled after a large, fuzzy mascot character. Not quite a cat, but not quite a bear. Well, it's getting late. Will you be all right now? Nanika released her hold on Akechi, balling up her little fans and giving a firm nod. Yeah, because tomorrow we can celebrate together. Good. Patted her on the head one more time before releasing her. Get some rest then. Then I'll go talk with Narukami-san about our plans. With another little nod, she crawls beneath the blankets on her futon and finally let out along. Seeing more to tiredness, he let on. When Akechi returned to the doorway, he lingered for a little bit longer. Good night, Nanako-chan. Ajichiru, Goro. Subtitles, loving you. He staggered in place, pressing one palm against the frame to catch himself. He, it, he knew, of course. He knew, but hearing a voice like that, so easily, it gave him pause. He gulped. This was stupid. He needed to calm down. Perhaps a bit timidly, he managed to strain, "You too," before he slipped back into the hole. Once he shut the door, his whole body deflated. Ran a hand through his hair, fingers digging into his scalp. That was a lot. Far more muscle vulnerability than he showed in many years. It took a moment to simply fall back against the wall, staring listlessly at the ceiling. Justice. Rank 7. You could imagine his shadow saying, "See, that wasn't so hard, Goro. We both know you want this just as much as she does." It was frustrating. So frustrating he knew he needed to heed his words. But there were so many walls surrounding his heart. Nanika was one thing. She was young, sweet, endlessly powerful. I guess he could trust her with ease. But the others, he gazed down at the stairs. Right. He still needed to speak with Narukami. So in a desperate bid to shake off his doubts, he made his way back to the living room. He turned to find Yu seated on the couch, clearly distraught with the way he stared down at his feet. He only lifted his gaze when the Ketsi cleared his throat to announce his presence. Nanako-chan is better now. I did my best to comfort her. That's good to hear. He sounded so hoarse, so tired. Must have been worried. Then, turns out one of the rookie cops got sick. So Jojima-san has to cover them. I see. Ketsi sat at the table, flipping through the channels aimlessly. Let me guess. It has to do with the ATM incident? He didn't say, but it wouldn't surprise me. You bent over, taking samples in both hands. Man, what are we going to do now? We adapt, obviously. Jesse gestured towards the kitchen. Make the bentos. Promise Nanako-chan we still act as a family. So we're going to give that little girl the best goddamn golden week she's ever had. Dang! You're willing to put up with me even without Dojima-san to mediate. Akechi shrugged, saying on what seemed to be a detective anime involving a young boy. This detective anime wouldn't happen to have the young boy wearing big glasses, have blue eyes, and likes to ride a really cool skateboard, right? We're attempting to improve our standing. We both want Naruto-chan to be happy. Ergo, I will put up with some degree of Narukami nonsense, but only a little. Of course, Senpai, your house, your rules. Of course, you return to his ridiculous dramatism, bowing and talking in a weirdly monotone yet ever charismatic voice. Now then, I guess he stood up, sighing irritably. Do you need assistance preparing the bentos? You stared for a moment. Huh, you actually want to help? Ronaldo-chan? It'll be quicker if we collaborate, won't it? Though I'll leave the actual cooking to you. You can follow instructions, right? Oh, yes, but... And how about I walk you through a few things? Doesn't have to be anything too crazy. I guess he fidgeted a little. He didn't trust himself in the kitchen, but... Fine. Just don't blame me if it goes awry. He then spent the rest of the night shuffling about the kitchen to prepare the meal. Fortunately, had to catch you on relatively simple tasks, like watching the rice cook and chopping up the vegetables. In the end, they ended up with a relatively pleasant set of entrees to pair with the rice and veggies. Grilled fish that you had caught earlier that day, and some pickled ginger for a little flourish, and shrimp nigiri to bring it all together. When the boxes packed and refrigerated, the two of them hauled themselves upstairs across to their respective futons. That was enlightening. I guess he admitted as he let the warmth of his blankets consume him. Good. That means you're learning. He muffled a yawn with his hand. Guess we can figure out where we're heading tomorrow. I think we both already know the answer. They couldn't travel out of town easily, but there was one surefire way to bring Nautico happiness. You mean a place where every day's great? You turned to him and winked. Yes, but I'm not singing. Akechi turned the other way, hoping for a sleep to wash over him before the conversation got any more absurd. One day, little buddy, you'll find a song in your heart, and then together we can sing a duet that will... Akechi threw his pillow again. This time it hit you flat in the face. Go the fuck to sleep. Thanks for the extra pillow, bud. Akechi turned to face you again, snarling. No, you will give that to me. Aw, okay, but only because you asked so nicely. He flung the pillow back, and Akechi watched it sail over him and smack into the wall. He didn't have to dodge. Taking the pillow from its pivotal place on the floor, he grabbed it, fluffed it up, and put it back into place. Now, good night, Narukami-san. As Akechi put into slumber, a familiar voice called to him. You know you don't hate him, Goro. It's okay to let him in.